Hello, hello, hello. Let's get this set correctly. And welcome back to a second part of the Maze Game stream. I mean, the first one was just a few hours ago, but I was hungry, I wanted a break, I wanted something to drink, and I decided after having a break and a bit of food, had a pizza, I would jump back on and have a look at a few more Maze games. And I'm starting with one I believe was programmed in Belgium. It's Art and Magic, who are really good with their presentation. This is Cheese Chase. So let's coin it up and play. So yeah, Art and Magic have a few games in MAME. They didn't release that many games. I know there's at least one that never got released that was probably lost forever. But the ones they did release are not bad games. I mean, the main complaint with this is maybe it's too zoomed in, so it can be quite difficult to navigate. The idea is just to get all the cheese on each level. Each level is a bit of a maze. Now there's one game on Art and Magic hardware in MAME that doesn't work, because it's a gambling game and it sort of uses Art and Magic hardware combined with a standard gambling board, and nobody's really got around to fixing it up with. Apparently a lottery, I travelled to level 4. Okay, that's a bit of a rough introduction. Straight to level 4. But, each button only opens... each button opens doors, but only one at once. Okay. So yeah, jumping straight to stage 4 probably isn't going to help me. Because you miss out on learning how to play the game. That's an odd feature in an arcade game. Let's just go down the hole. So, each button opens doors only once. So, yeah. So, yeah, it's got very difficult, isn't it? And that's the problem. Say there's not much space to move around the screen on this one. It could have maybe done with it being a bit more zoomed out. But I guess they just wanted the very big sprites. As such, it can be quite difficult to control. I wouldn't really say it was Mousetrap. It's just a game with mice and cheese. And there's not much Mousetrap in it, is there? It's a game of mice, cheese, and strict time limits. No, oh dear. Level 4 is much more difficult than level 1, and I wasn't expecting to be on level 4 already. So let's give it another try. Get ready. But yeah, of the Art and Magic games, I'm not sure where I stand on Cheese Chase. I definitely like Stone Ball and the Ultimate Tennis game they did. But this one's maybe a little bit too difficult for me. And that's more to do with me not being very good at games than the game itself. But still 3 bits of cheese left to get. How do I get them? It gives me that one. 1 bit of cheese remaining. There we go. I managed to do it that time. It's another one of those where don't rush too much. Some of the levels the time will be really strict and you have to. Others, rushing is a real mistake. Obviously you don't want to stay on a mine after you've set it off. Where's it sending? No. Yeah, big sprites, generally well animated. I mean, this isn't quite as well animated as, say, Stone Ball. But it still is very cartoony, isn't it? I need to find the button on the right. Yes, I will. Oh, and the scrolling lags behind you a little bit as well, which doesn't help with the zoomed in view, unfortunately. It means it's very easy to run straight into something, as I just did. But once you get the hang of it, use the mines to kill the monsters, okay. Oh. So the timer in this level is strict. And I got blown up by a mine! Yay. Unfortunately, it is difficult. Maybe too difficult for an arcade game of this style. You can burn through your credits very, very quickly. Out the way. Right, I have to go and get these. Oh, and if you run into the explosions, yeah, they kill you too. I get a lottery now. 1 extra life. That's an unusual feature, isn't it? Again, it doesn't really feel at home in an arcade game. But these aren't really your traditional arcade games, are they? I mean, they're done by a developer who is relatively unknown. But yes, where are we going then? Where are we going? We need to find the button on the right. I looked on the right, I couldn't find a button. Well, I don't know what the button on the right thing was telling me about because I got all the cheese anyway. Get a code. Agony. So I guess there is a password system. But I didn't see the option to enter a password. But again, not a very arcade-like feature. Can't open the metal door yet. I need to find the switch. I'm guessing this is one that people are less likely to have played than a lot of the ones I've shown. Just because, you know, Art and Magic isn't a name that anybody's really going to be looking out for. It's not like Sega or Nintendo or even UPL. They're just a small developer. There's your button. There, ran straight into it. Ran straight into it. 2 streams in one day, Carlo, yes. I thought, you know, I got the first one out of the way quite early. And I realised, you know, I've got a good 2 hours where now I've had some food, I can stream a bit more. It's a Easter weekend and a Saturday, so you know, why not? Yeah, there's definitely a maze element to this with the button pressing and then finding where the door is opened. So that's the door that opened. It's being blocked at the moment. But hey, big winner, how you doing? Thank you for joining. 9001. Is 9001 a reference to anything? It's reminding me of Toypop graphic chip numbers. Was that 9001? It was 9000 or something, I think. Now there's a slight 3D look to some of the elements. If you see the plant pots there as you walk past them, the perspective on them changes, and the walls do slightly too. Let's not get zapped this time. It's ice mechanics, and the tree there, you see, got a 3D look to it. Okay, I don't like ice mechanics. I've got everything over here, haven't I? Yes, there we go. The ice mechanics are done with. What am I doing here? I'm running out of time. There's 1 piece of cheese left. Where's the cheese? No, 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 no. Oh dear. I think I know what happened here. I have to get the cheese from somewhere else first. Okay. That might have been my mistake. I didn't see a way back to get the cheese from up here. So you might have to clear out this section first before going. Ooh, that was close. That was very close. I've got all the cheese here this time. I think I might have done. Maybe if I was following the arrows, I would be not making this mistake. This is just coins up here, not cheese, isn't it? Okay. The coins and cheese could do with being a different colour, I think. I think I've got everything I need now to actually clear this. There we go. Oh, the over 9,000 Dragon Ball meme. What was the Toypop graphics chip then? It was something. I have to check that now. What was the Toypop graphics chip? Sorry. This is nothing to do with the stream, so you know, I just it was the GP9001. Yes, so you also having your name is very similar to the graphics custom chip used on Toypop games. There you go. I thought it was, but as you point out, it was not a reference to that. But I thought it might be. I don't know why that is the first thing that came to mind, but it was. I guess the graphics chip is over 9,000. But it's one I did a fair bit of work on when I was updating the Toypop emulation some years back, so I guess it's still familiar with me for that reason. Press A button to use spray. That's not good. I trapped myself. Oh no, no, this way. I can't go this way because I've used up my spray. Okay. That was silly. That was very silly of me. But yes, all those nice Toypop games like Batsugun are powered by the GP9001. These arrows are pointing in the wrong direction. They're not helpful. True sign of a real maze is they're trying to trick you, I'm sure. Push this one to turn that gate. Get the spray and don't waste the spray. Yeah, I know. I kind of wasted the spray because I was clicking the button to dismiss the message. I've got more spray. Good, more spray. It only has one square in front of you. But there we go. I got all the cheese. And I've been playing this one for a good 15 minutes. Almost quite like Cheese Chase. But it's more of, feels very console-like. I don't know what the TMS chip in Flying Shark is used for. I guess it just accelerates some calculations. I've never really studied it. Maybe it's just protection. I don't always study what the individual chips on games do, and in the case of those ones, I really don't know. I know that for the Gulf War 2 bootleg, they copied the whole thing, didn't they, with external ROM. And many of the other bootlegs used external ROM from the same compatible chip. So, I don't know. It didn't seem like the most secure thing if it was intended for protection. Anyway, I think this is enough of Cheese Chase. You get the idea. It's a cutesy, puzzly maze game that does fit my definition of a maze. It introduces new elements all the time. It's not perfect arcade design. It's a bit overly difficult. In an unfair kind of way at times. But it's still a good looking game and one that's worth a play, I would say. Okay, so that was that. I know what the mating game is. It's maybe a little bit too adult for the stream. I know it's mostly in good taste, but there are inflatable adult toys and the like spread around the game, I believe, and I'm not sure YouTube will like it that much on a stream that's not marked as over 18s, so I'm probably gonna not play the mating game next. It's a fun little UK quiz machine that very much not politically correct these days, I would say. But I don't think it's going to be YouTube friendly, unfortunately, and I do have to be a little bit careful about what I put on the stream. So I'm going to go next with Nightmare. This is one of the recent dumps, very unusual hardware. These say the CDP 1802 chips. Spanish game from E.F.O. Unfortunately, there's a sound one not dumped, and it's meant to have speech. Also, yeah, Nightmare is 2 words here, and on the cabinet it's even sometimes misspelled with T and H swapped. But this is an early Spanish game. Hey the Ogre, thank you for rejoining the new stream. Now you get to choose which order you do the levels in here, so I can go to level 1. But, now yes, without the sound ROM stumped, this is a little bit quiet, that has to be said. But I mean it's a rare enough game anyway, so I'm just kind of hoping the sound ROMs show up at some point. Otherwise, you will be forever playing this one in silent. Oh, okay. Sorry, that flashing block kills you. Ooh. There we go. I'm not doing very well. Let's ignore the fact that I'm not doing very well. Yeah, the things steal the treasures that are lying around, unfortunately. You do have a turbo boost thing that's kind of useful. Get the treasure back. I missed it. I jumped over it. Okay, that's not how you play this game. Which I believe was also called Chubby Octopus, but I don't know if it was ever officially called that, or that was just sort of an alternate name people gave to it, because I think the octopus says, "Hi, I'm chubby," or something like that. That's what the speech does, which is not emulated because the speech ROM is not dumped. But again, it's a very simple early maze game, isn't it? But if you consider these to be maze games, which, you know, we had a little discussion about. Let's get the boot. There we go. Now the exits are open. Now I can get out of here. Then I can select another stage, so I can go to stage 2. Yeah, it didn't really fit the game. I agree with that. And I've gone on the square and messed up. So it's not Art and Magic's best game. You can jump over the red bits, by the way, as you just saw there. So if you face them and you use your jump button, you jump over those. They're like little hurdles. Although I don't think you can jump over the ones that you can't turn into. So I can't jump over that one from that side. But again, this is like jumping through hedges in a maze, isn't it? No, oh, thank you, the Ogre, for the $5 Canadian there. Always appreciated. Thank you for joining the stream. I should get the audio notification of that soon. There we go. Bit more lag than I was expecting there. There aren't many games that let you choose the order of stages, no. I mean, it's not the only one, or at least some let you choose the starting stage, like Pac-Mania. But this one does still require you to play all the stages. I don't think you can jump over these, can you? Oh, you can. You can jump over the flashing squares. Okay. That potentially makes things a bit easier. Yeah, jump all the way over there, you see. And that's... Jump over that. Jump over... No, fail to jump over that. I don't know what the currency conversion is, but, you know, it's always appreciated. Right, so if I defend my position, fail to defend my position. It's quite a tricky game, this, but it's got... I can one thing with it being selectable from the start of the levels, I can very easily go all the way up here and show you what level 8 is. So no, that was the. So you know you've got more of the same things. Now this time you really have to carefully navigate and stay within the little gap. And you know, for a game that is really rare and didn't really see distribution, I think this is a pretty good one. It's not an easy one, and this level is especially tricky. You just have to know when to time it. Now you can't jump over there, that's a green one. And some of the enemies you can't actually get rid of, you can only change their direction. So there we go, I've gotten this thing. Now I'll go up here. Get these. Yeah, it's a tricky game. Hey R09, how are you doing? Thank you for joining the stream. Right, anyway. So Nightmare. I mean, do you want to see more Nightmare? I can play more of this Nightmare. But it's just like this. The whole level is like this. And since there's no sound emulation at the moment, it does feel a bit empty. I said just a minute ago, I'd love to see the sound ones dumped. But they were missing from the board that this was dumped from. So, in fact, I don't think the board it was dumped from worked because of the parts that were missing. So we're lucky to have any dump at all of this. But, you know, there's probably another one out there somewhere. Have I ever experienced the original Scary Maze game as a kid? I don't believe I have. What was the original Scary Maze game? Is it one of those video DVD things or something else? I know there were a couple of those, weren't there? Where you meant to play back a videotape of scary things to go with a board game. So that was Nightmare. As I say, without sound, it feels a bit empty. So I'm hoping one day I can come back to it and show it with sound. I mentioned this in part 1. But the Odysee 2 driver has had a fair bit of work recently, so it's in good state these days. So let's have a look at it. You do have to be careful with the button you press to skip past this, otherwise it skips this screen too. Select game, there's different difficulty levels. I select difficulty level 1. So it's a ghost munching thing, but the pellets move, the maze layout changes, and you can stop on the spot. It doesn't play much like Pac-Man really because of the changes, although Atari did win a case against it being sold and it was recalled from the market for being too close to Pac-Man. But I mean, are you ever chasing dots in Pac-Man? I noticed the top of the screen is a little bit flickery, but that might just be how the game is. So I quite like this one. The Odysee 2 doesn't always have the best games. The ones that are good tend to hold up well. And this is definitely one of those. Let's chase the power pill. There we go. I managed to chase it down. And we start again. I've not played Monkey Shines. I'll have to have a look at that one. I know there's things like Killer Bees that are always a popular one. It was Odysee 2, wasn't it? I think in the wrong system. Oh, I thought I got the pill there. And some of them have speech as well. This just doesn't appear to be one of the ones that has speech. But even if it did, I'd probably have to plug in an add-on board that I haven't got plugged in. Now, this is also a game with a maze editor. If you press a certain key on startup, instead of getting one of the predefined mazes, you will get the maze editor. And that's you know, a feature that not many games really had. So I would have probably bought this if I'd owned an Odysee 2. I mean, a bit before my time, really. But, oh, got caught out. 2 player doesn't really work for streaming, unfortunately, does it? So, I reset. If I selected like 4, I think we get a slightly different maze. No, that's not too different. Here we go. We've got a maze now where whenever you're moving, the walls are invisible. So you have to study the maze to know where things are when you're not moving, so that you know where to go when you are moving. Again, this is a bit of a different idea. No, this is another one where the maze... Okay. I'm trying to find a different one. I don't know which button does what. Okay, this is a different maze. Not too much changing in this maze. You know, there's plenty of mazes to play with the number buttons giving you different mazes. Now you can only turn around when you're on a square, so you are committed to moving to the next square once you've started moving, which can make escaping tight situations a little bit tricky, so you can't move forward and backward within a square. Yeah, Boulder Dash had a construction kit, but I think Boulder Dash probably came out after this. I don't know what the first game with a construction mode would have been. I know I tended to buy them if I could back in the day. So yeah, I don't know. There's different mazes. There we go. Now this maze, the rotating section here, affects when you can access different parts of the maze. So that's quite cleverly designed around the rotating part, the changing part in the middle, because you have to plan when you go down there, otherwise you'll be, you'll be stuck and in a dead end and get got by the ghost. Oh dear. So I don't want to spend too long on this one because there's not that much to show about it. But it does run quite nicely in MAME. I'm assuming the slight flicker that happens at the top of the screen sometimes is just something that can happen on the hardware, because the driver did see a decent set of improvements over the last year. And I tend to trust those to have made things better. Yep. Come on. No. But yeah, when you die, you do have to restart the maze from the start. But yeah, that was KC Munchkin for the Odysee 2. Definitely a maze game, and quite a good fun one if you've not played it before. And definitely a bit different to just regular Pac-Man. Speaking of Pac-Man, so have a look at another official one. The Namco Classics Volume 2 from 1996, which apparently is still tagged as unemulated protection, so could potentially still crash at some point. I don't know if Super Cobra on the 2600 was totally random. I know the game on the Spectrum that was similar, Penetrator, had a level editor. That wasn't random. So, yeah, a few years ago, a lot of the zooming and rotation effects were added to this driver. I think there's still one or two cases that don't work properly. I think there's a MAME testers report open still for a later stage on Dig Dug, I want to say. But, yeah, otherwise, this is a very nice version of Pac-Man. You also get the original Pac-Man, recoded for the 68K. But this Pac-Man arrangement is it's really good work. Remix music, rainbowy colours, fast, smooth. Yeah, this is the dots waving about everywhere. This is kind of what you want from a Pac-Man sequel from this time period. And Namco could have released this as a standalone game. Not even put it in this collection. The fact that this came with new and old versions of 3 different games was a really good value pack in terms of, you know, an arcade release from. Yes, Samus. It is a really good arrangement. It just captures everything that Pac-Man should be. You've got your smooth movement around the corners that it emphasises. Got the speed up bits there. Adds new things to the formula. And that's what you want. It keeps it fresh. But it just looks like a proper 90s Pac-Man game. I think this was also on the Game Boy Advance, wasn't it? I seem to recall. The zoom things, if you're using the zoom and you hit a ghost, the ghost gets stunned rather than killing you. So that's what the arrows do. Hey again, Bob. And you've got another birthday, have you? Alec Baldwin. I'll be asked to bless those with birthdays soon at some point. But yeah, now we've got a different theme. We've sort of got this vectory graphic thing that's kind of like what maybe Namco wanted you to imagine Pac-Man looked like back in the day. If they could have drawn it like this. But, kind of reminds me a bit of some of the Pacman hacks as well that had more vectory graphics. It is. I didn't think I was going to learn 2 celebrity birthdays today, no. I don't consider Pac-Man to be a maze game. I would say it's a platform game. A very difficult platform game. A platform game where you have to tap buttons a lot to jump and not fall in water. It's almost a sports game at times, this Pac-Man. Yes. Now you see, we get multiple heights. You know, there's stairs. It's not the first maze game to use stairs. I can put another one on later, maybe. But it's nice to sit in a Pac-Man game. I can't remember what the other birthday was now. That's how bad I am at remembering birthdays. But yes, Bob did come with a birthday in the first stream too. Yeah, got trapped by ghosts. Oh yeah, Eddie Murphy, that was it, wasn't it? Eddie Murphy. So, the fact that this keeps changing up the theme also helps. Now you've got your jump pads to teleport you from one place to another. And the way the dots spin around... The way the dots spin around like this really makes them stand out against the backgrounds. Because it would have been very easy with these very colourful backgrounds for the dots to become very difficult to see. So, you know, you were looking around the screen like, where's that last dot? I can't see it, I can't see it, I can't see it. But the fact that they're animating means you just look for something that's moving, and if it's not a ghost or a fruit or something like that, it's a dot. So if it moves, you either avoid it or pick it up. And it makes them stand out against the background. Now a hedge maze. Of course, we've already discussed that are Pac-Man mazes really mazes? Possibly not, but it is what people think of as when you say arcade maze game. And this version of Pac-Man is probably one that I would recommend over the original Pac-Man. I think Namco did a fantastic job here. I wouldn't recommend, running into ghosts like that, but it doesn't have the simplicity of the original. So I guess if you want to learn all the patterns of the original and sort of play the original more like a machine, you're not going to get that with this version. But that's not what this was going for. This was going for present Pac-Man to a new generation, really. That's what all these arrangements are about. The originals are there for people who want the original versions. The arranged versions are there for people who want to experience the game in a new way, who might not be used to such primitive looking games, even if they are classics. Yeah, I had a look at Pac-Man C, the NES demake on the first part of the stream, which was really, really good. I was running that in the main NES driver, and it captures what the the C version was, but puts it on a NES. I don't know if you saw that earlier. I don't think you were in the chat earlier, but maybe you saw a catch up. Yeah, if you track down the ROM for that NES remake and try that out, it's a really good one if you didn't see it earlier. It's impressive use of the NES hardware and the Namco mapper that adds the sound channels. Now the ghost can jump around, you see. Yeah, the shaking dots animation, I'd say it's not only a nice looking effect, it's a functional effect. And I usually follow this game up by playing Twinkle. In fact, now I'm dead, I will follow this up by playing Twinkle, which is a SemiCom's sequel to Hyper Pac-Man. I like the way Namco use the zoom in subtle ways here too. Like the high score table zoom there. When the zoom effect first wasn't emulated, it was just said, oh, it's just used on the intro screen, but it's used all over the place for little effects, not just the intro. Yeah, I saw the 3D NES emulator. I find it sort of makes the games just more difficult to play because you lose the feeling of where the platforms are and things like that. So it's not for me. I get the appeal, and again, bring it to a new audience. People who might not want to play a simple 2D game might kind of like the 3D look, but not for me so much. So yeah, this is after that. This is the year after that, but this is a Korean game, so you can understand that it's not being quite as advanced. But yeah, SemiCom followed up their own Hyper Pac-Man with this, which is Twinkle, which is not called Pac-Man or Hyper Pac-Man because they were told not to do that. So this has the bouncing dots. Interestingly though, it also has a dip switch to turn off the bouncing dots. So if you don't want bouncing dots, you can turn them off with a dip switch. Not sure why you'd want to, unless it improves the performance on later levels. I'll keep the bouncing dots on. Now, I didn't realise that at first, so when there were no bouncing dots in the emulation, I was quite confused and thought maybe I'd noted down the protection data incorrectly or something like that. But eventually I did find that there was the dip switch to turn the bouncing dots on. Much to my relief, because, I didn't want to do an error in the protection data, or a hidden protection feature. But luckily this is just a standard SemiCom protection of copying a small segment of code into RAM on startup. But yeah, you saw Hyper Pac-Man earlier. This is like a faster, more refined, tuned version of the game. There is a bit of slowdown, which might not happen if you turn the bouncing dots off. So maybe that is why it's an option. Here you can see blasting through the blocks to unlock them to get to these secrets. It's got more than just ghost enemies too. Yes. I guess this one gets overlooked compared to Hyper Pac-Man because it's not called Pac-Man. But that's kind of the point Namco were making, where they said to SemiCom, look, you're making money off the back of our Pac-Man name. You can't do that. Nice big explosion there. And you get that pill, and that is an instant stage clear one, oddly. It's not always in your best interest, though. Now we've got lots of secrets. You can blast our way out of here. We want to blast. Time. Yeah, you have to work out the correct way of doing that bonus stage to get to the extra life. Look at what you can actually blast and don't blast. Now, unlike Hyper Pac-Man, I don't think this one has bosses. I seem to recall this one is more straight Pac-Man levels. But still a good game. Still one I'll happily play a lot of. So I can blast those up there, yeah, there we go. Oh, I got a... Yeah, this is a Hyper Pac-Man sequel. But this is definitely more Hyper Pac-Man. It's more pure Pac-Man. It's not got boss fights as far as I remember. Which I just said. So I'm repeating myself now. But it's also, it varies up the enemy types, and to me it's probably better use of the space on the memory space to keep them varied than... How do I get in here? Just this way. It's better use of the memory space than bosses, because it just allows for more standard Pac-Man game. More of it. I'm not going to play this for too long anyway, because I think you get the idea. And there's not much add to the discussion. It's Pac-Man maze game. It had no license whatsoever from Namco. It has the bouncing dots. So yeah, there you go. Where now? I'm thinking... I could go with Raiders 5. That's got some similar mechanics. I could go with... Yeah, I can go with that one, I think. Sindbad Mystery. I think this is vertical. Intelligent puzzle game. So yeah, intelligent puzzle game, Sindbad Mystery. Now, I put this one on because I mentioned just a minute ago about Pac-Man, the classic one, having hills. And this kind of does too. It's obviously not really comparable in terms of gameplay, and it's a little bit slow, and it's a hole digging game as much as anything. And we'll see more of those in a minute. It's kind of a maze. I mean, it's got lower and upper paths, which Pac-Man doesn't have. Oh, that doesn't help me. Pushing the boulder. But the music's not very good though, is it? Let's be honest. This music is kind of awful, and I'm kind of awful at this game. Now, I wouldn't really call this much of a puzzle game. This is early Sega for this kind of game. Yeah, I think I recall seeing the SG-1000 port. Yeah, the treasure was there. You are collecting the treasure map, and then you've got to find the treasure. Oh yeah, that's it. You dig the hole where the treasure is, not for the enemies to fall in this one. I am being silly. I've completely forgotten how to play this. I was trying to play it like a completely different game. You dig the hole. The holes do not save you. You can deflect enemies with them, but... So I guess that is the puzzle, really, isn't it? Push boulders onto people. Ooh. No, I'm not meant to dig a hole in front of me. That doesn't help. I was trying to delay the enemy with a hole, but it's quite difficult. It doesn't play too well, if I'm quite honest with you about it. I like the look of it with the steps and the multiple layers, but it's quite frustrating to try and play. So, you know, the treasure map's clearly pointing me at that bottom corner there. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. Is the SG-1000 version better than this? Is it one of those cases where the arcade game is a little bit rough and they made a better home version? No, the SC-1000 version is just as rough as it. It's too slow. You're kind of wanting to shout, hurry up, move faster. That doesn't always turn them around. That doesn't turn them around then, but now they're right behind me. The problem is I'm just not finding it much fun. And that tends to be a problem if you're playing a game and you're frustrated by it more so than enjoying it. See, that one... It's not clear what the enemies will do at any given point, and I'm trapped. Hey Lee, how you doing? Thank you for joining. Yes, the treasure was there and I didn't get it. I'm not going to be getting any treasure in this game. But that is a maze game, and I think the fact that it's got hidden treasure like that kind of makes it more of a maze game, because you're searching a maze for the treasure. So yeah, I would say that, again, that's probably a bit more maze-like than Pacman, because you've got that search for something in the maze that's not clear. But I don't know, is that a real thing that makes it more mazy, or is it not? Indeed. Right, shall we go back to not arcade? Let's play a Dizzy game. And let's load it from tape. Be warned. Cassette loading noises. This is Fast Food Dizzy for the Amstrad CPC by the Oliver Twins. And this is definitely the most maze-like of the Dizzy games. So we shall see it in a minute. I prefer to load the original versions from tape. I mean, a lot of these games were transferred to disc at some point, but the disc versions are usually cracked versions, because not many of the budget games got released on disc. So when loading them, I will look at the software list and try to stick to these versions from tape. So it takes a little bit longer to load, but that's okay, isn't it? Right, pause to quit it. Trying to work out the keys. Believe it or not. Okay, ZX. KN. So yeah, this is this one. You're chasing down the food in the maze that's moving around. Hence why it's fast food, because that's the pun. The first level doesn't have any enemies, so you know it's just a case of getting used to the game mechanics. And I'm sure anybody who grew up with the 8-bit computers and loved the Dizzy games would have bought this one. And maybe had mixed opinions on it. It's a bit slow, possibly. The CPC version may be slower than some of the others, but it's colourful. There we go, I've got all the food from that maze. And that maze is designed with a hedge look to it, sort of reinforce the idea that it is a hedge maze. And it's not the only time that was done. I've got another home computer one that very clearly makes it look like a hedge maze to look at. Yeah, they really took 5 minutes to load. Some of them took much longer. There's some that took about 15-20 minutes to load. It was kind of ridiculous. This one had a fast loader. I just speed it up to load through it, but some of the ones that use the standard built-in basic ROM loaders take forever to load. They're really bad. So yeah, you could definitely go and make a cup of tea or two while you waited. Now you see, we've actually got an enemy in the maze now. But this enemy's not too smart, as you can see. They're not really pursuing me or chasing me down too much, and they're frozen there with a power-up. But you will get more and more enemies as the game progresses. And just like Pacman, you've got a cutscene. Flattened. Now the enemy's a bit faster, I think. Get the shield. Kill the enemy. Yeah, tapes were slow. That was the issue with them. That's why people moved to floppies, apart from, you know, random access and all that, which is kind of handy. It's also why a lot of people converted all the games to run on disc. Because if you owned a machine at the time, it was one of the things you really want to do if you always had a disk drive. To avoid having to load them from tape. But I kind of like loading things from tape anyway. Now we've got 2 enemies, you see. There's not much else to show with this game. It just continues down these paths and gets more difficult with more elements in the levels. And they're kind of mazy. Just one of those maze games that comes to mind. Yeah, the CPC tape routines are terrible. It's why the ones that actually have a Spectrum ROM loader built into the basic CPC loader are faster than the CPC ones. So you see some CPC games that load with the Spectrum loader just because the developers have copied the Spectrum loading ROM code into their initial loader, which is kind of cheeky but works. And I guess it's handy if you're doing multi-platform. Although I don't think there are any games that bootstrap one loader into another and load the same. That'd be silly. There we go, 3 enemies, but again they're a little bit unintelligent and not following, chasing you. But, another cutscene. This time I escape in a lift. Let's go. You see, now back to the hedge maze style. 3 enemies, but you get the idea. I'm not going to play too much of that because you've seen what it's all about. I kind of liked it. I didn't know. Yeah, the food is a bit slow, isn't it? But it's an alright game, especially if you're younger. I think you can play it for a long time. As an adult, a little bit too slow to get off the ground, I would say. I don't know. I don't mind it. Some of the Japanese games tapes seem to be really long too. It's quite bad. Right. I'm just looking at what should I do. I'll do that one. I'll do another one that's got maze in the title. bit is, I guess, a maze game. Here we go, Neo Geo one. Oh, this has got artwork on it now. I don't want the full cabinet artwork, thank you. That just looks out of place for my needs. Slider controls, stretch it slightly. Yes, you did. You did. Especially some of the 128K games on the Spectrum where they did load all 128K in at once. Far better than the multi-loads where it had to load it between each level, but while the game's initially loading, you could really go and make some food. Now, this game has Irritating in the title. Generally, it's not advisable to put negatives in your title, you know, irritating, terrible. Am I a man or a lady? I'll be a man. Now, I believe you can crash this game on the high score entry by spinning the trackball too quickly, which is really easy when you've got a mouse, but probably much more difficult when you've got a trackball. But it's kind of hard to play on a mouse, but we'll try. Because you've got to keep doing this. You really want a trackball, don't you? Or a keyboard. But it's one of the few Neo Geo games, but it's the only Neo Geo game with a custom BIOS really to do the for the analog controls. It's one of those where there was long rumoured to be joystick version, but there really isn't an official joystick version. In fact, I don't think there's even a hacked up joystick version. It's not a game that lends itself well to joystick. I'm trying to play on keyboard now. It's quite bad. No, I need to get there. No. I can't get on with trackpads anyway, so I think I'd be even worse with this. Let's try and get somewhere. I used to be a bit better at this. It's one of those that had badly emulated sound at first as well, I think, because people didn't realise the Delta T samples. Again, we're talking about things that... This game's irritating. We're talking about problems that existed maybe for a year. While people are still figuring out things. You've got all these little voices in the background of the music. Past that part. Checkpoint. There we go. I reached a checkpoint. At least the ZX81 though, much lower board, but you were loading a lot less data too. So load times on the ZX81 didn't always feel as bad, even though it was a much slower load. It is in the title. Yeah, choice of routes. Is this a maze? Well, there are multiple paths. As I mentioned, this is more like one of those carnival games where you try to move something along without touching the edges. But it's sort of the video equivalent of that. And those are quite irritating too, aren't they? Unless you're good at them and have a really steady hand. And having to be tall enough to reach the high places on them.
Steady, you're about to enter the S-curve zone.
About to enter the what? The S-curve zone, I guess. So makes the time in the corner very obvious to see too. Some parts are easier on mouse. The mouse sensitivity is a bit higher, it might help, but I don't like overly high mouse sensitivity.
You've now left the
I have not left the F zone. I got zapped. Now this had a big air blower thing that would blow in your face if you got zapped too. It was a very much a custom cabinet. And it's unusual because, like I say, that wasn't really what Neo Geo was designed for. Neo Geo was designed for interchangeable games and multiple games in a machine. So the fact they took the hardware and still released this on a cartridge, not a single standalone board, but a cartridge that only worked in one machine, it's quite a strange thing to see. I suppose some of the later gambling games were the same. The V-Liner and stuff required extra hardware hooked up for the payouts. But those were sort of late life Neo Geo when SNK were going bankrupt and trying to, you know, get the hardware used wherever they could. And Dyna obviously did a lot of fruit machines.
You have now left the S-curve.
There we go.
Congratulations, you just made it through the novice course.
I've made it through the novice course. Can I crash it? Yeah, you see, if you spin it too fast, you crash the game. I don't think that's an emulation bug. I think that's just a case of if you spin it too fast, the game crashes. And, you know, they didn't expect anyone to spin it too fast, really, did they? So there we go. I have crashed the irritating maze. And that means I can move on to another game. Let's go with a Namco one. The bee with the sunglasses and afro. That looks like Irritating Stick. It was an Irritating Stick. This Toypop a maze game. Toypop. Up, down, left, right, one button. 1986 by Namco. It's got its own art style, this one. Pardon me. What am I doing in this game? It's one of those games where I can't actually remember what to do. I guess I get the hearts. That sort of makes sense. Okay, yeah, I get the hearts to the door and then I go out the door. That was it. So it's mazy. Ooh. I don't think there's anything else to this one. It's more shallow than many of the Namco games. Ooh. That's not good. Now, I noticed this game has your two different states. You've got your, you know, your fully dressed sort of puppet, toy doll, whatever you want to call it, and you have a sort of, you know, not clothes off state. Now, this was obviously before Ghouls and Ghosts, Ghosts and Goblins type games would do that. At least I think it was. 86, actually. The royalty-free music. Is this before it was done by Capcom? I'm not sure now. I thought this was an earlier game. I thought it was like 83. But apparently it's 86. There you go. Royalty-free music did get used from time to time. Sometimes it just suits it. I mean, it suits the toy theme. So, you know, if you've got a suitable tune, why use anything else? Okay, let's get out of here. Yeah, That's why I'm surprised to see this is 86. I thought this was earlier. I think it's the same hardware type as Liberal Rabble. Was that early or was that late too? I know it's the early 68K platform, but I think this must have been a later game on it. But I thought it was earlier. I think Liberal Rabble must be the one that's 83 or something. Or maybe I'm just completely wrong. It wouldn't be the first time. Bombs. It's nice to have pouts, isn't it? Yeah, Liberal Rabble's... I wonder why it took so long to release this on the hardware then. It seems an odd gap to have in a piece of hardware. You know, especially a hardware that's only got 2 games on it. For one to be 83 and the other to be 86. I'm doing really badly today. Hey Mass Ninja, how are you doing? Thank you for joining. I don't think you'll ever see Moral Madness 2. Honestly, I think it's one of those to forget about. So there's lots of different pouts in this, things to collect. Are you in time? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem even quite as advanced as Pengo in some ways, and Pengo's obviously a much earlier game from Sega. It's not a bad game, it's just surprising that it's an 86 game. Unless it's a hack, unless it's not really 86 at all, but I think it's a proper dump and not a hack version. I did have a look at an Atari 2600 one earlier, didn't I? Which was first person. But no, I've not got any specifically dungeon crawlers on here. I might put on another first person one in a bit. You can go back to the CPC for that. Although I'll save you the tape loading, mainly because the tape version wouldn't load for some reason. But, okay, that's Toypop. Which I was quite surprised is from 86. Hey man, Shuffle, how are you doing? You're just in time for an Amstrad CPC game. Not one that many people are going to go out their way to play. So, Sultan's Maze. This is one of those early Amstrad games that takes forever to load off tape. So, you know, I'm not loading it off tape. I'm loading it off disc. Where apparently it still takes more to load. Oh. Did you delete your own message there, the ogre, or have you been censored by YouTube? So this is Sultan's Maze. I guess this is almost a first-person dungeon crawler. I mean, it's got a nice story to it. Yes, lots of story. They're the rules. In one mode you can jump through the hedges and the other you can't. 1984 this. Oh, okay, that's alright then. There you go, that's all the rules. So these are your keys. 7, 8, 9, 4, 5. So you can move forward and turn. That's kind of important because it gets 2 moves in one and you save energy by doing that. But again, making the maze. See, this says maze. That song. Alright, shall we just go for difficulty level 1 because of this? Now, here we go. This is literally a hedge maze. You are facing north. It's kind of slow to draw. So we turn around and go, where am I? What am I doing? Now you've got to go and get the the gems while avoiding the guardian. So if I go up here, if I go there, I think if I press this, I go forward and turn around. So yeah, I press this, I go there. Obviously, this is quite slow paced. Right now, and there. But you know, this is maybe not a dungeon crawler, but it is a 3D maze game where you're avoiding a guardian in the maze, trying to pick things up. It's much slower than the Atari 2600 game we looked at before, but I guess this wasn't really going for speed. And there is one of the gems for me to pick up. So I'll get close to this gem. I think that's now on the screen. I pick it up. Now, map. Should I go? Yeah, I'll go and get the other one that's next to me. So, yeah, I mean, if you had this at the time, early 80s, it's kind of impressive. I mean, not as impressive as other games you would get later on, but there weren't that many 3D games. Obviously now it's not aged well at all. So if I'm facing west, I can turn and face down. I should be facing south now. Hampton Court, of course. Now, I don't know if E's are meant to appear where you've picked things up from or not. Now, because it's on the easier difficulty level, I can open up the hedge maze and jump through it. Just use a fair bit of energy, but I just want to get out of this maze, really. There's a fair bit of tension in these because there is an enemy pursuing you. Not very close at the moment. Very unhappy. Shall we jump out the maze again? Ooh. So this is. I'm not going to play this for too long because I know it's not the most interesting one to watch. See, I'm almost out of energy now, so I'm dropping gems, unfortunately. Look, my energy is 29. Which I guess means I can't carry this gem with me. So I'm going to go out of the maze. It was all that jumping through the hedges, you see. It did me no good. It's escape. There you go. I got one jewel. Rest, restore your energy, and go back in the maze. Now, you see, the gems are where they were left, so there is one that I dropped right next to the entrance. But basically, it's a go into the maze, collect all the gems, avoid the guardian. I think you've seen all there is to really need to see on that one. Not quite dungeon crawler, is it? But it's sort of got the roots of that type of game to the gameplay. Right. I'm going to look at one that I'm potentially thinking about trying to improve the emulation of. If I can work out what's actually wrong with it. And that is Sega's Crackdown. And this one's debatable, if this is a maze game or not. I have seen that reaction video, and that video, I think the Spectrum original version of that game is still missing. We've only got the clone with the censored title. I believe it's the MSX version where the uncensored version is available. This is Crackdown. It's kind of mazy. There are some priority issues under the radar, though, unfortunately, that transparency issues that I do need to look at some point. Now, this had some quite bad bugs in the actual code otherwise that reared their head in a recent build, and it was crashing quite badly on startup sometimes. But those have been fixed now. I just got shot. Now, I'd say mazy. Is this a maze game or not? You kind of the tightness of the buildings and the way you have to navigate it and get to the correct spots to lay the bombs down kind of makes it like a maze game to me, and hiding behind corners in like a maze. But that doesn't mean every cover shooter is a maze game. But you can see the priority issue at the top with the buildings appearing under the radar, and it shouldn't be doing that. It's always done that in MAME though. But, I don't know. To me, this is maybe just about a maze game. You definitely have to navigate the levels and work out a good path. But it's... There we go. Now escape. Get to the exit. Don't get shot. So there we go, you see. Timer counts down. The earbug that keeps giving. Yes, it is. I've not re-listened to it. I've managed to stay away from that temptation. I know both on System 24, but this really does feel, in many ways, quite close to Gain Ground in terms of the slow-paced move and shoot you have to do. Again, this is maybe better known for appearing on other platforms. It's amazing how many of the System 24 games were quite strategic actually. Even Bonanza Brothers is quite strategic in how you move around the buildings to rob the places. Scramble Spirits is not really strategic, the shooter. But this is. And I am dead. I press no to continue to tap. I don't like continue screens that offer you a yes/no choice. It's very easy to press no. But yeah. So it's a fairly simple layout. I'm not entirely sure. I think the strategic element of this makes it feel mazy to me. But it's not overly mazy, is it? Have I tried Pac-Man? I played Pac-90. Wade, you know, I've not actually played the original Pac-Man. I have played a hack of it that, well, a conversion to World Cup 90 hardware. But you know, I try to keep things a bit different. I played plenty of other Pac-Man games though. Yeah, I mean, the fact they're on medium resolution monitors helps. Even if in the end, maybe the System 24 time-ups and the like became more famous for Model 2. Not the sprites, but the time-ups are the basis of hardware like Model 2 as well. Whereas none of the System 24 games themselves were that popular. But yeah, the medium resolution does give them a certain look. And the fact a lot of them loading off floppy too, I think, means there's not quite as much room for so many graphics, so they have to go with something a bit different. They can't just throw loads of different visual styles in the game. They have to try and maybe a bit more consistent with the looks. So you're seeing only a select few tiles making up these levels, because that's what they can load into memory from the floppy. Because they're just standard sort of 1.44 meg floppies, I think. Or are they even lower capacity? I can't remember. So compared to an actual ROM capacity on an arcade board, it's really quite low. And then you're trying to power a higher power driver medium resolution monitor too. So very odd choice of combining a low capacity storage device with a floppy drive, which might be why some of them also had ROM boards or had ROM boards instead in the end. They're good games, but the emulation does need a bit of work. across the board. I mean, the golf game's got offset layers as well. But the transparency issue here is probably the most noticeable one. But yeah, that's a bit of Crackdown. I'm not going to spend too long on it because I don't think it's the most entertaining one to watch. At least that's the impression I get. So let's stick with Sega though. Splatter. 84. Another System 1 one. So here we go. So you're driving this tricycle. You can jump out the way of things, but you don't jump up. You jump to the side like that. Can we? And you have to get the flowers. There we go. This is another one I'll play a fair bit of from time to time. It's nice and simple. Visually, it reminds me a fair bit of Flicky. Again, it's probably just because it's a System 1 game and the palette used. And when the other System 1 game I had on earlier, you were saying in the chat, it reminded you of My Hero, which again is a System 1 game. So I think these System 1 games do have a certain look to them, and a certain sound to them. There we go, actually knocked it off this time. Now, it's not Sonic driving the cars, although it does kind of have that blue look to it. Oh yeah, we've got a bonus stage that starts to make it even feel even more like Flicky. It becomes a side-on platform. Happy bonus, 0 points. Now, you can't pick up things by doing the side attack, but you can knock the other people off their bikes, or knock them off the playfield. But it doesn't help if you dodge the thing you're trying to pick up. Not that there. You out the way and get that. Again, I think this is one that gets overlooked despite being a Sega game. It's not got the best title. Splatter. I mean, the closest thing would be... Did you mean Splatterhouse? No, I meant Spatter. It's a meaningless word in terms of a game title. I don't really advocate people calling games something ninja, but you know, they could have called this Tricycle Ninja and people would have had a far better idea of what it was than calling it Spatter. I mean, it's also got a kind of Little Red Riding Hood look to it, I'd say, for the main character. In fact, that's probably what it is. I mean, it seems to be... Then again... Not really Goldilocks and... I'm not sure. It might be meant to be based around, you know, fairy tales. Could be Little Red Riding Hood and some wolves on tricycles, or in cars. Not sure. All I know is that I lost. But yeah, if you've not played this one, give it a go. I don't think this got any ports to the 8-bit systems at the time either, not that I'm aware of. I don't think it was on the Spectrum or CPC. I'd be surprised if it was on the Commodore. Which again surprises me, but it happened to quite a few of the Sega games. I mean, I would have said Flicky should have been on more systems than it was. Yeah, it's a Tricycle Maze game, and yes, Cow, 2 streams. Thank you for joining again. I just needed a drink and something to eat really last time, and I don't have a be right back or anything set up, so it was easy to just... I'm doing worse this time than the first time I did this. The first time I completed these levels easily. But yeah, I thought, you know, I'll get some more of these done today. Once refreshed. I mean, the throwing box mechanic is quite Flicky-like too. I mean, in Flicky you're picking up the flower pots and throwing them around. So, I definitely think there's some Flicky influence here. Nice to meet you. Now I get the happy bonus. Well, I actually wanted the fruit as well, but... that was a close one. Is this the last one? Yes, it is. It's nice it's got the little counter at the bottom of the screen too. I like it when it does that. It's quite Fantasy Zone in that sense, lighting up the flowers as you pick them. Yeah, Wizard of War I think is one I should do, isn't it? Oh, got caught out. Should I do the English version of Wizard of War, or should I do the German version of Wizard of War? I suppose I should do the English version of Wizard of War, shouldn't I? Even though the German one's got German speech. It's tempting. Anyway, Splatter by Sega. If you've not played it, it's a good one to have a play of. Okay, German version it is. Wizard of War with German language ROM. You asked for it. This is Wizard of War. Ha 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 ha. So yes, the Votrack's speech is much improved over how it was for quite a long time in MAME. And yes, the German version is one of those you couldn't play with the samples because there were no samples for the German version, so you do have to play it with the speech. So a lot of people won't have heard the speech before, that is true. I mean, I do love Fantasy Zone, but I've not played it today as it's not really a maze game. I could play Fantasy Zone the Maze, Opa Opa, but that's a different game. No, it's not spring-centric stream. Although I might do one of those another day. But this one is more focusing on games with maze elements to them. I didn't get that one. Yeah, the speech is a key part of this one. Invisible enemies. Okay, that was the German version. I'm going to put the English version on now because I still want to play it. Yes. Please insert coin. I will put Opa Opa on next then, which is Fantasy Zone Maze. I just want to kill the other player. My enemies. Don't shoot them. Don't like you. Go away. Yeah, it's the same hardware as Gorf. So it's the same Votrex speech hardware as Gorf and Qbit. Oh. It does like to taunt you, this one. That's what most of the speech is, taunting you, telling you the enemies are invisible. Double score. Double score dungeon. Your bones will fly in a condensed war. Yes, this is almost as talky as Bubsy. And you do have the radar to tell you where things are, but when they get fast, that's not always going to help you. You know you can do better, warrior. Insert coin. Insert coin. No, I'm not inserting any more coins. That was Wizard of War. And, yes. It has speech. It sounds pretty good these days. Opa Opa. aka Fantasy Zone the Maze. This is the arcade release. It wasn't released as Fantasy Zone the Maze in the arcades, only as Opa Opa. Classic Fantasy Zone music, isn't it? So I can't afford anything, so now you have to try and reset the thing in the middle before it fills up, because that stops more enemies spawning and the like. Don't crash into enemies either, that's silly. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get the thing in the middle. Oh, there we go. No, you get your little power-ups and stuff from the edge here, so I've got a nice laser beam. But it's quite strange to see Fantasy Zone adapted into a maze game, I have to say. But it is actually a decent fun game. David Maze Hayes. that's a bit of a mouthful. Maze Hayes. Hey Rockman, how you doing? Have I just trapped? Oh no! Luckily the AI is there's too many things in this maze now. Who wants to kill me? No! Shooty them. It's technically 2 streams. I did take a break and restarted Santori, but no, I was getting a bit hungry. I figured, you know, I can do another 2 hours or so. I mean, we're on another hour and a half already. So yeah, you'll probably get another half an hour to an hour and a half out of the stream. We're happy to shoot things. But yeah, I think this one gets overlooked, at least the arcade version, because it doesn't have the English title of Fantasy Zone the Maze. It's just called Opa Opa, which is the name of the character. Odd choice of name, I feel, because it doesn't tell you anything about the game. Opa Opa is as much just Fantasy Zone as anything. It doesn't tell you it's going to be a maze game. It doesn't tell you a single thing that would be useful to know. So that's it's quite a badly named title. Now this arcade version is basically on Master System hardware. The original game is a Master System game. The System E hardware is a Master System with double VDPs. Oh, now it's gone all dark. So technically it can draw twice as many layers as a regular Master System. Not many of the games use it to full effect. Hang On Junior has a few extra parallax layers compared to the other ones, compared to the Master System version. Quite an odd choice by Sega really to use cheap Master System hardware in the arcades. And it also resulted in the arcade version of Fantasy Zone 2 being basically the Master System version brought to the arcades. And yeah, I don't know why people would want to pay to play a game they can play almost the same version of at home. Seems a little misguided. That's not to say the games are bad, they're still good games. They're just not really that arcade standard. So I'll happily play them. Get the coins. Not many big bonuses. You have to get really quick times to get your big bonuses on this. So yeah, I do like a bit of Fantasy Zone though, man shovel. Have you played the Fantasy Zone 2 DX version that M2 put out as part of the PlayStation 2 pack, which was running on what was really the old System 16 hardware with a bit more RAM, but they dubbed System 16C, and it's actually been put on PCBs. Because that's Fantasy Zone 2 done right. Again, it's not really a maze game though, so I can't play it in this stream. I don't think the whole different areas you can travel to count as a maze mechanics. Yeah, the Fantasy Zone 2 M2 version is really good. The happiest music I've heard in an arcade game. I don't really know. If I think of happy games, they don't always necessarily have happy music. Or I can't always remember the music outside the context of the game either. There we go. Yeah, I might have a look at Bomberman. Or maybe Bomberman that's not Bomberman. Anyway, this was Fantasy Zone the Maze. But yeah, I'll put a Bomberman game that's not Bomberman. Because this was on my list. This is Fireball by FM Work. It runs on cloned Legendary Wings hardware, of all things. It's basically a knockoff Bomberman game. It's a little bit buggy as well, apparently. People have found that sometimes when continuing, the game will crash and lock up. But yeah, it's a knockoff Bomberman. Again, probably one that not many people have seen. Because Fireball is just a very generic name. But, you know, as far as Bomberman knockoffs go, this isn't too bad. Sounds kind of rubbish, but again, you get that with these cheap platforms. They put everything on a simple OKI sample, 625. And this one, you don't have to find the exit after you've killed everything, which to me is a big win because I really hate having to find the exit on these things after blowing everything up. Got a speed up that's making me far too fast to control. No, don't want to go there. Oh dear. I'm blowing myself up. Maze Haze again. I'm not renaming myself for the month. It's not going to be a month of Maze streams. I'm not going to go and have my name changed by Depot or anything like that. I think a lot of people were very confused if I did. But yeah, there's definitely a maze element to these. Maybe some of the earlier levels in Bomberman not so much, because they are just very plain grids. But once you start to get to the later levels, you know, they've actually got layouts to them. I did have to recently demote a maze game in MAME, one of the Bomberman clones, to not working because I'm sure it runs far too fast. And that was Last Fighting. The timer on that runs so fast, and you move around so quickly, it's almost impossible to finish any levels. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anybody to provide a recording to show how it's meant to be. But it didn't seem very playable to me. Uh-oh. I knew that was going to happen. That's the thing with Bomberman. That's one of the mazy elements of it. You can easily trap yourself in a corner with a bomb about to go off, and you know you're in trouble. Problem is, I don't think there's anybody here to play two-player games with, and doing it online doesn't really work. Haim Maze. Now we're just getting silly man shuffle. So yeah, I'll play another credit of this as an example of a Bomberman game that's not Bomberman. Bomberman is a very much cloned game. You can find all sorts of Bomberman games on those plug and play units too. Some good, some bad, some really just obviously still Bomberman. Not very well hacked up. Now this isn't everything to let me drop more than one bomb, or I've just not found the right power up for it. The sound is also really nasty on this. I think one issue with doing multiplayer in MAME is there's always going to be security risks associated with it. And we don't really want a project where older versions are not only bad emulation but severe security bugs. So I'm not sure if you'll ever see it officially in MAME with any kind of net play, if that's what you would mean. Same reason that MAME doesn't really have an auto updater. It's because if one day, you know, we lose control of the MAME domain name, somebody could start pushing unwanted files to users, and that would just be a mess. The same almost happened, like within inches of happening with RetroArch. Somebody hacked into their servers, and if they'd wanted to force bad updates on people, they probably could have done. But luckily for their user base, that didn't happen. They didn't actually change the put anything bad on the update server, but it could have done. One of those enemies looks like an automaton. That one looks like the bee from Rainbow Islands. It's very easy to get caught in your own explosions on this one. You just run into them after you think they've already gone, and they've not. Yeah, this is Fireball anyway. A very uncommon Bomberman clone by a company that I don't think produced anything else. At least not that's credited to them. Yeah, it's a really bad 6295 with really bad quality samples that don't loop very well, and otherwise it's a legendary Wings rip-off hardware. It's just with, say, worse sound. But yeah, Fireball, just a bit different. It seems like a Bomberman game that gets going a bit more quickly than Bomberman does, which is maybe what the appeal was for me with it. But it's maybe also just not as well made as Bomberman. Now I'm going to play the German version of Berzerk because Well, all my donation alerts and subscriber alerts are the English version. And that would get very confusing otherwise. So, yes. So this is actually, one of my favourites is Berzerk. Yeah, Berzerk's a fantastic game. I love Frenzy too. I mean, the trivia for Berzerk is obviously that there are two very different versions of the game with different enemy progression. Some have more colours than the other, and it plays quite differently once you. Only just got out of there. The ColecoVision stopped working. You mean your ColecoVision or the emulation of the ColecoVision? Old hardware is unfortunately failing at quite a rapid rate these days, which is one of the reasons that lots of it's starting to get so expensive. It's always a case of people using two of them to repair one, or not being able to get the components, or realising they didn't store things very well and throwing them out. Plus, people are just inflating prices on things for ridiculous reasons because they can. One of the good things about this game is the enemies can kill each other. You can trick them into running into each other or shooting each other, and it's a strategy. Yeah, for such simple graphics, the graphics work so well. You've even got colour clash associated more with things like the spectrum when you move too close to a wall here. But it doesn't take away from the game. It holds up so very well. Oh, just I've not played the 2600 version actually. I'll have to have a look at that one day. Maybe I'll have a look at it in a bit. I don't know. I could do. It'd be a different one to play that wasn't on my list. And I do need to play more 2600 games on the streams at some point. I don't play anywhere near enough of them. Acting something. This is where my Berzerk skills start to fail me, unfortunately. I think it's the same speech as the English one, just translated, because that was definitely a human fight like a robot, wasn't it? Was it weakling? Bonus life. Now you get the purple ones, which are a bit more difficult to see because they're dark purple. I suppose that's sort of the point too. Why not use more difficult to see robots to make them more difficult? I'll play the 2600 version next time. I'll have a look at it. I'm not aware of it. I think the closest game I played or had as a kid, I won't say played because it didn't work on my Spectrum properly, was Last Sunset Last Sunset something. Which is strange because on my Spectrum you couldn't move them one of the directions, but I think it's a compatibility of two different Spectrums. Last Sunset on Latica, I think it was. It seems to work okay in emulators as long as you select the right keyboard mode. I think it's a bit problematic in MAME if you don't change the modes. Seems like a badly programmed game. Not actually that much like Berzerk either, but just something that reminded me of it. I'm doing far better at this. It sounds like a Kraftwerk. I think that's why I like this German version. It sounds like, you know, the robots should be German. They should be speaking German. It's just perfect. So it just sounds. I was listening to a bit of Kraftwerk yesterday. No, I don't regularly listen to Kraftwerk, but I just felt like listening to that for a bit. Yeah, I'm doing far better at this game than I usually do. This is unusual for anything on stream. Usually I do far worse. But for some reason, this is probably the best score I've got in a long time. Okay, I've done it for myself now by saying that, but ooh, yeah, the bullets are quite fast now. It makes the CRT shape a bit nicer. Yeah, I couldn't make it out of the way. There we go. Still 7,900 and something. It's not actually too bad. So, yeah, Berzerk. That's a proper maze game. A maze of mazes, I think. Okay. So what's the 2600 version all about then? Okay. Ooh. Suddenly the enemies got really big. Really big. Trans Europe Express. Yes. Shall I talk like this? This is Berzerk on the Atari 2600. The scale of it makes it more difficult. I will get a sore throat talking like this. You really don't have much room to move on this, do you? And you can... Otto there appears very quickly. This is a hard version of Berzerk. This is a very hard version of Berzerk. I mean, it's impressive, but everything is so big. That, yeah, you don't get much time in the level. Ah, that's not a nice place to spawn me. That's reminding me of Surprise, Surprise. Also, the angle of your diagonal shots isn't 100% diagonal, which is really putting me off. It's more like a sort of 30-40 degree angle. Yes, it is a little... Yeah, I'm not going to get a chance to kill those. I've got to leave this room as quickly as I can. It's a good port, though. I mean, I can see that this is a good port of the game. And I'm sure once you get used to the angled shots, you can you'll be able to do it much more easily. Yeah, just don't move immediately when you walk into a room, because you've got a good chance of walking straight into something. And yeah, the walls are definitely electrified. In fact, that's probably the thing that maybe reminded me with that last Sunset game. I'm not going to load that up in MAME though, because I remember it being quite tricky to get to work properly in MAME. Everything's electrified. And larger. Ooh. Again, that's a little bit unfair. Yes, they are larger at the 45 degree angle, aren't they? I guess that's just... What? I can kill that thing? Okay, that's not very arcade-like, is it? Kill it in an arcade. Right, oh, okay. Can't always fire either. That's what got me there. Okay, so, yeah. I think it's a pretty good port, actually, this. It doesn't seem to quite follow the same structure as the arcade. The enemy colours here seem to be completely random. There's a smile for a fraction of a second whenever I kill a robot. Adventure. I tried playing Adventure when I emulated the Mini 7800 thing, which was quite bizarre because they ported the games to NES hardware. I'm not going to play it extensively, but what's the set name? E.F.O. So yeah, this runs on NES hardware. It's ported by Nice Code, and they put Adventure on it. Now, as far as I know, it doesn't play very well, but I can't even remember how to play it, but you know, it's quite strange to see this running on a NES. It's such a strange game as well, where you have to pick up the bridge and move the bridge around. Oh, there's the bridge. I need to go to the bridge and pick the bridge up, don't I? But yes, it's. I guess it is an early maze game. I'm going to leave the key. Can't go that way. There's another key down there, you see. But yeah, I don't know why they didn't just clone the Atari hardware and instead decided to port it to a NES. Yes, only the strongest one. If he could, I've gone the same way, haven't I? Oh, there we go. You see, I can move the bridge. It's such a strange game. I don't know why I want to steal a bridge. I mean, but yeah, I've stolen a bridge. I mean, see, I can cross there now. I mean, bridge, it would be much easier if you could steal the bridges. Yeah, they've done a really bad job of these, if I'm quite honest. I really should have got the key, shouldn't I? I've not got the key, but there you go. It is a maze game. Put the Viewer 2600 version on as well. So the 2600 version, the real one, it doesn't move quite as smoothly, but it sounds better. And it looks better. At least in my opinion. I'm going to steal the bridge up here, can't I? And is that not where I steal the bridge? I can't remember. I can't remember. There's the bridge. Let's steal the bridge. Okay, let's not steal the bridge. Can we not steal the bridges easily on this one? Well, now I'm stuck here. Yeah, so Adventure. It's definitely sort of a mazy RPG game, isn't it? The next thing is definitely a novelty. I mean, it was a standalone plug and play, but yeah, it doesn't even use any kind of enhanced hardware. So if you had the basic mapper on the NES cartridge that it uses, which doesn't really add any special features, just some graphic, page layouts and stuff like that, standard mapper features, you could port it to any other mapper, I'm sure. You could potentially put that on the NES cartridge, the Mini 2600, Mini 7800 version, original Atari I'm losing my words. Original Atari Flashback Mini 7800 version. Yeah, it's just a NES. You could potentially port it to an actual NES cartridge if you wanted to. Right. Since we're talking adventure-y things, I could go with the CPC version or the Spectrum version. I'll go with the Spectrum version. Now, this isn't strictly a maze game. This is Feud. Now, the CPC version has a really nice title screen. The Spectrum original release doesn't have a title screen at all. This reissue has this title screen, which is not very good. But that doesn't take away from the game. The NES version isn't in the software list, but if you've got the ROM, you can run it loose. I added it to the software list I've got. Split the file up and added it, but it will just run the loose version if you've got it. Just pass the cartridge file directly as a parameter. Right, so loading noises, loading noises, loading noises, loading noises will be coming to an end shortly. Here we go. Right, let's just go with keyboard. So this, I mean, this is a sort of little world you're walking around in. And the basic idea is you go and find the ingredients to make the spells, and then you cast the spell on the other person to try and kill them, and they're doing the same thing to try and kill you. Now, it's sort of very early RPG style, I would say. Wizard versus wizard. But the whole thing is quite maze-like. I mean, the locations of the items, I believe, are always the same. So once you learn it, you learn it. Otherwise, you're navigating this whole mazy world. And there are hedge mazes in the world. All right, Manchur, well, take care. Thank you for joining. It's always good to have you drop along. I'll probably see you on one of Zypho's streams or something like that. If I don't catch you on one of mine before then. But always good, thank you. Take care. Look after yourself. Yeah, so I'm walking around. You can check your spell, but you can look at the ingredients you need. That doesn't really help if you don't know where they are. But once you've collected the ingredients, you take them to your cauldron. There's little villagers walking around, you see. And you can walk through them on the Spectrum version. On some versions, you can't pass through them, and so they're just annoying obstacles. But I think this is the middle of the map, isn't it? And so, yeah, you wrap around, I believe. So now I'm back on the other side. The compass tells you whereabouts relative to you the other person is. There you go. This has got a literal hedge maze in it too. Not very good at it. I don't know where the ingredients are. But yeah, it's not strictly a maze game, but the whole map is like a maze, and it has a maze in it. So I wanted to, have a look at it. There we go. Bog bean. Now, there are like 2 or 3 spells that if you find them, you're pretty much guaranteed to win because they're more powerful than the other ones. I believe this is the computer's cauldron, so this is where the computer's trying to take all the ingredients back to, in the bottom right corner of the map, whereas you start in the top left. But there's not really much for me to show with this unless I invest time in trying to play it properly. But it's one I had as a kid. There we go. I've got all the components for teleport now. So I could, in theory, go back up to my cauldron and mix teleport. If I can remember the way back, because yeah, it's quite amazing. It's quite easy to get lost. If you've got a map, it's easy enough. If you draw a map, or you memorise it, and there's only the one layout, there's only the one level. So there's not that much to this game. Maybe that's also why it feels like a maze rather than a level, because there's only the one of them. And that's a strange thing to say when we looked at so many games with different levels, with different mazes. But in this case, you are memorising one big maze, even if there are mini mazes within it. But yeah, you wander around, and you know, this is a game that if anybody is looking for an old 8-bit game to play, the Spectrum and CPC versions of this are really good. I think the C64 version is kind of bad, from what I remember. Yeah, Big Maze, like on the 8-bits, not even just the Spectrum. I'd say for many of the 8-bits, Big Maze games, Starquake, I think I mentioned that earlier, comes to mind. That's got a huge maze and randomized items on Starquake. So Starquake, it's a case of knowing the maze layout and knowing how to search every corner for the items you want. Starquake is one of those games I would play just to find new locations, you know, find the new teleport codes and things like that. But yes. See, there's a different maze here too. There's different little mazes inside your maze. I'm trying to find the way back to where I actually want to be. But I'm quite lost. Collecting things along the way though. I'm not going to play this for too much longer because it's not the most thrilling one to watch. But you get the idea. There are many games like this, big maze games, big worlds that act like a maze on the Spectrum. This one is maybe... It was one of the first ones that came to mind when I thought I was going to do this list. Oh, there's the other person. He's following me. He's probably got a spell to cast on me. Or is he not? Has he not? Oh, he's going to fireballs, you see. Trying to kill me up with some fireballs. Now, I can... make teleport, can't I? There he is. I've made teleport. Now if I use teleport, I teleport back there. Now I've used it up. Well, now I've still got it. Maybe you get a certain number of uses. But I can teleport back to my cauldron if I want to. Not the most useful spell, but there you go. That's how you make a spell. You find the parts, you go to your cauldron, you make it, and there you go. It's a really fun little game, I would say. Let's go with Intrepid. Nova Games, the Pit Hardware. Sort of mazy game. And I want to change the orientation. Let's reset it as well. Indiana Jones 2800. I haven't seen the emulator called Tile Map, no. I mean, the Spectrum can be quite lightweight to emulate if you're not trying to do it cycle exact, so... Yeah, sounds a bit like 3D Arcade for Spectrum lovers. Right, Intrepid. It's a spy game. But it's got mazy elements to it. Looking through the rooms here, what am I going to find? I found an umbrella. I found a key. I must avoid the guards and get out. Uh-oh. Nope, that's not avoiding a guard. Oh, so it's running the same. It's running the same copy of Starquake and letting you see all the rooms. That sounds like yeah. That's an interesting concept. I guess all the rooms aren't active when you can't see them because that would be really slow. But it can show you the layout and I guess where the objects are. So yeah, this has you searching for rooms for safe keys, passwords, and all that stuff. Get back in the lift, go up another floor, get chased into this room. So I'm not sure this is strictly a maze game, but it has maze elements and stealth. Well, not really stealth, but dodge the guards elements. You've gone into that little room and I'm going to run away. In the lift. Into this room. Click that. Click that. Did I forget to go in the first room? Uh-oh. I've turned into a coffin. Do I have what I need to do to the top? Why is it indoor weather? There we go. I can go up here to the safe. I don't know why I'm being chased by a storm cloud inside. So because I've got the disguise and all the safe keys and everything else, I can go and get the secret plans. And then I have to get out before I am sussed. Come on, lift. Out we go. And off we go, back to the car. Let's drive off. There we go. Nova Games are from Canada. It's a Canadian game. Now, what is interesting is there was meant to be a sequel. But the sequel never got released, and I think it was somebody from Nova Games back in the day sent us the ROMs, but there were no graphics ROMs. So it's a very similar game, and you can still kind of play it. But you see, you're moving around your rooms like this, you're uncovering your tiles like this. There's clearly an enemy there that I'm trying to avoid. And if you load the sound ROMs from the original game, you get reasonable sounds. If you load the original graphics, you don't. But it's quite clear that a lot of the game elements, the graphic elements, are meant to be the same, just at different addresses. So I'm kind of tempted, because it's been about 20 years now since we were sent just the program ROMs. I'm kind of tempted to maybe just try and use the older the graphics from the original release, the Intrepid, and apply them to this and fill in the blanks just to produce something that kind of works. Because there's clearly a playable game here. I've played through the whole game and got to the end and rescued the guy you meant to rescue. Because the easiest thing to move over is the font, which will instantly tell you, go and rescue the hostage, go and rescue this guy who's been trapped in the building. And so you can work out what you're meant to do if you've got the font transferred. But the rest of the graphics don't quite match up. So yeah, one of the things I've been considering doing is just trying to make some graphics for this, because after 20 years, when it was probably sent to us by the original programmer, it probably means there's nothing else of this out there. There's nothing ever going to show up. So unless I do something like that, we're probably not going to see any advances in the emulation of this one, unfortunately. I've clearly picked up something I need here. Where should I go now? But yeah, so the no graphics ROMs dumped, and the likely no graphics ROMs exist. So it's one of those, should I at one point maybe try and just make something up so it kind of works? Maybe I will. Let's go to a Pacman Hack. There are lots of Pacman hacks. Many of them hit the arcades. And this is maybe not the most creative one, but it's Caterpillar Pacman Hack. Harry, Sabina, Charlotte, and Webster. Doesn't change the sounds up, it's still very much Pac-Man sounds, but it's got a bit of a different look to it. Slightly modified maze. But, you know, the main reason I'm playing this one isn't really to show this one. I'm just going to clear this maze because I can, hopefully. You've still got your fruit. So this is a Pacman hack, as is very obviously the case. But there you go. So that was Caterpillar Pacman hack. Not the only game where you play as a little bug. Botanic by Odysee. Also has you playing as a caterpillar. And in this one, you have to eat the leaves to uncover the maze, which is kind of hard at times, because you can end up in a dead end that you don't even know is going to be a dead end. So, is this good game design? Good. I can go through things like that. No, I can't go through things like that. Sorry. It does fit quite well with the Pacman thing, yes. So I can get off the screen this way. Yeah, straight into a spider. See, this has got some bad design elements like that. Straight into a spider. Straight into a spider. You're supposed to be a little caterpillar. But yes, you don't have the powers of sonar. You don't know what's on the next screen. So yeah, I don't really know. But you're literally discovering the maze as you go. And you're discovering the dead ends. I mean, it's definitely an original game, this. I can't think of any others that use this mechanic, but that might be for good reason, because it's not a great mechanic. Yeah, we've got classical music again here, haven't we? Royalty-free classical music. I don't really understand what the special button does if you can't consume enemies after you've pressed it, but this tune was in... Oh, you can consume some of them. This tune was in so many 8-bit games. You know, it's one I'm familiar with even without ever really listening to much classical music, just because I've heard it in so many games before. So you can eat the ones that turn white, you can't eat the other ones. I can't tell you off the top of my head which other games use it, but it's one of those that's ingrained in my head just from playing games. There we go. Now I can go to the exit. And there are butterflies. But yes, Spanish game from Odysee, this one, I believe. On similar hardware to Bagman, which is a French game, but it is licensed from Valadon. I think most people acknowledge that the game design here has a few flaws. Mainly things can kill you from off screen like that. I mean, there's clearly something spawned on the screen just as I was leaving the screen. I had no idea, no way to know it was there, and died because of it. Just, you know, we're not going to tell you the maze, you've got to find out for yourself. Is kind of a frustrating mechanic. And I've got no bombs left now, so now it's pure avoid him up. No, I'm in trouble. It's a playable enough game. It's just, it's got its design flaws. no way to know that was there. There's no radar or anything to tell you. No little arrow on the side of the screen that says, if you leave the screen here, you're probably going to die. So you sometimes have to flick between the screens very quickly just to see that. But if they move onto the screen just as you're leaving, you really don't stand a chance. I don't know. I mean, arcade games make really poor use of the AY chip compared to the home systems, I have to say, because you do see all these ones with multiple AY chips, and then you play a game on the Spectrum or the CPC with a single AY chip, and it sounds so much better. No bombs trapped in the corner. I guess AY chips were cheap, and they also acted as sort of input multiplexers, so you could hook up, different inputs to them and read from different ports and things like that. So they had multiple uses aside from just being sound. I mean, so there's some hardware that has them that doesn't even play sound using them. Yeah, I think it's got that. I think it's got 3 or 4 channels. I can't remember. I think it's 3. And this has got 2 of them. So you've got plenty of chips. A lot of the arcade games would use one chip for music and the other for sound effects. Maybe they had different people working on the sound effects and music and just wanted to let the musicians use an entire AY chip to themselves. I really don't know. But there are quite a few. Right. Let's play another Korean game, which is called Go Miles Smile. This is one of those that ends up being in some of the plug and play units, using basically the original graphics and sometimes the original title. They call it Go Smile. So I guess in Korea or Asia this was quite famous. And if you saw me play Anteater the other day, this is more or less the same concept. Got a wavy raster effect on the water there. It's by Fuki, who actually seem to have some really good developers. Didn't produce much, but what they did produce was of good quality. I think is it Korean or is it Japanese? I'm not sure. Maybe it's Japanese. But it was popular in Korea. Kind of feels like Korean, but maybe Fuki was Japanese actually, yes, sorry. Because I think Fuki licensed Head Panic from ESD for Japan. But they're a smaller developer. I shouldn't call them Korean when they're not, though. But yeah, this is Anteater, but in some senses, you're not quite got the same mechanics. You're just not allowed anything to touch your trail, and you can move where you go and enter the maze from at the sides. But yeah, this is actually a good game. So if you've not seen this one, and you like your dot eaters with a bit of a twist, this one, well animated too. The way the eggs crack open to reveal the chicks. Let's move down here. There is a Korean game that's very similar actually that I should have looked at. Another one I emulated years back called Pass. Ooh. Nah, I didn't go back in time. So there's a risk-reward element to this. You know, how long do you want to keep going before you try and attract the chicks? And if you do it for too long, you end up getting got. Obviously, different enemies have different patterns, so you've got to work out where you want to approach each dot from. There we go. Now we are on about 2.5 hours of the second stream. Yeah, Anteater is a good fun one to play, and this reminds me a lot of it. But obviously, it's a twist on it. It's clearly the same type of idea, but done in a different way. In Anteater, you can't move your ant; here you can move the egg. I best get these ones. There we go. This is a very cutesy game. I mean, I'm on keyboard. I'm not really having a problem with it, so I don't know. It's quite forgiving. And yeah, as you can see, the theme changes. So we've got stars we're picking up now, but you know, it does manage to mix things up like that. It's kind of got a Mr. Do look to it now with all the clowns. Neo Mr. Do, which is Mr. Do a maze game? Can I play Mr. Do? Can I play Neo Mr. Do? Maybe. Actually, let's play Neo Mr. Do after this. I didn't get to play Neo Mr. Do on the... Ooh, that was close. On the actual end stream, did I? Alright, Big Winner, thank you for joining anyway. Nice to see you. Thank you for having a chat with you. Thank you for having a chat with me, and it's been good having a chat with you, and, you know, curiously discovering that your name had nothing to do with the Toypop chips. Now, obviously, you can see on this level you can't move around the bottom. You've only got the sides to move, sides and top to move between. So it's something to keep in mind. There we go. Right. So I'm not going to play too much of this. Yeah, I'll call that one there. It's worth checking out. I'm going to very quickly show you Pass by Oxan.
Let's clean up.
Let's clean up. That's taken straight from Tumblepop. But you can see this is the same basic concept. But this is just done nowhere near as well. This plays really quite badly, and yet it's just Tumblepop sounds. And this is interesting because this is one of the first games that emulated that doesn't have sprites. It's time-lapse only. It's also one of the first games that emulated that has 256 colour tiles. So in that sense, it's quite ahead of the curve. I mean, this is 1992, and all the tiles are 256 colours, from what I remember. So it's an 8-bit decode. But it's just you're saying Pass is Japanese too. I thought Oxan. Oh, are you talking about Fuki? Fuki was Japanese. Yeah, Fuki was Japanese. Was Pass Japanese too? I thought the Oxan. Oh, I thought Oxan was related to F2 Systems, which was Korean. But yeah, Fuki was Japanese. I remembered after a brief moment. I'm terrible at most of the games, Joe. As I think if you've watched any more of the streams, you will realise that a lot of them I will fail entirely on. Oh yeah, Go Mile, yeah, Japanese. I did correct myself on that after a while. I for some reason I think Fuki and I think of Korean games, but I think it's because Fuki licensed quite a few Korean games, and for some reason there's a bit of a connection there. Like I said, they licensed Head Panic for Japan from ESD, and I think they licensed some other odd Korean games, a hack of quick kicks and things like that. So they've got weird connections with the Korean developers, but they're not a Korean developer. And sometimes I get confused for that reason, I think, because it's quite rare to see Japanese companies license Korean games, but they did that a few times. But yeah, definitely a Japanese developer. A smaller one, but they had those 2 really good fighting games too that we looked at before. So, a more traditional maze game now. Well, a more traditional arcade maze game. Pengo. Pengo. Set 1, Revision C encrypted. Thanks for playing. Try once more. Right, so Pengo, you've got your attract mode, then you've got this scene. A lot of the bootlegs get rid of this scene because it takes up a whole extra sprite bank, and if they're converting to a different type of hardware, it's easier just to take that screen out. Now, while on the subject of Pengo, there was a micro hard bootleg called Super Chick, which unfortunately has not been fully dumped yet, that I need to revisit the emulation on once more. Pardon me, because it does look like I forgot to submit some of the fixes I made to it. Because I'd fixed the sprites up in it just with bad colours and fixed the protection check on it, but it's not like I ever submitted that. But I won't be playing Super Chick on the stream because the colour prompts aren't dumped, so it looks terrible. But and also, no, I've not put the fix in yet, so the graphics aren't even correct. Now, Pengo is one where I have to get into it. If I've not played it in a while, my timing's off, my reading of the enemy is off, and I do this and I die. But you can, if you electrify the sides by pushing them, you can stun enemies, but if you do it too late, they still get you. Now, there are multiple ways to complete the level in Pengo. I'm getting to all these towers just a second too slow. But if you push the special blocks together, it stuns enemies, and unfortunately I can't easily do it now. I'll just get rid of the enemies that way. You can get rid of the spawn points as well if you look at where they're flashing before the level starts. This has got one of those how quickly did you do the level thing in. We saw that in a previous game on the first stream. A pirate copy called Petch. I think I had one on the Spectrum. Although I seem to remember there was also a pirate copy and the loader was kind of broken, so there was almost like a fog of war when you were playing it. You had to uncover it at the same time. And I've played that version of Pengo since in an emulator and it doesn't do it, so I think there was something wrong with the copy I had as a kid. So, I've not played the C64 version called Petch. Is that version dumped, or do you think that's just one that somebody local had made and just hacked to say that? I've not played Binary Land yet. No, I haven't. Is Binary Land one of those that got hacked into a lot of the plug and plays under a different name? I seem to recall. Is it the one where you're controlling 2 characters at once? Okay, my Pengo skills are definitely rusty. Very rusty. Anyway, there is... Okay, right, so that's Pengo. Now, if we load the older version of Pengo, there's lots of sets of Pengo. I can't remember which one's got different music. Has this one got different music? Here we go, yeah. This is so a lot of people remember Pengo with this music. I believe, is this the version that's called the popcorn sets. Here's the other version. So yeah, when Pango was emulated, a lot of people loaded up the version in MAME and go, that's got the wrong music, because they grew up with the version with this music. But I think Sega were forced to change the music. Yeah, that is the one I'm thinking of then, yeah. It's been put on a lot of the plug and plays under different names. So I can through the spawn point. Is it just me, or is this version also a lot easier? And I really shouldn't say things like that, but... Still destroyed. That wasn't really good. Yes, I know the one you mean. It's not one I played yet. It's not on my list for this stream, at least. But, you know, I might have a look at some more Maze games in another stream. If I've not prepared the rest of the idea I had for April. Don't Pull. Yeah, that is a Maze game, isn't it? I could put that one on. There was something else I wanted to put on after this that has escaped my memory, though. But yeah, that was Pengo with different music. The first version is the one you remember, not that music. Okay. And I guess different regions got different versions, and different ones were bootlegged in different versions. Pengo is one of those that was heavily bootlegged, and quite a lot of people will know based on the bootleg they play. Yeah, let's have a look at Don't Pull on 3 Wonders then. Or Wonder 3, as it is in Japan. But 3 Wonders is a Capcom 3-in-1 on CPS1. So, quite controversial in the way the colours are rendered, because various monitors don't render this properly. In fact, I think the majority don't render it properly, so people are used to seeing colours that are broken. Especially on these screens where the brown will vanish, and on other screens where it'll just suck all the colours out. Like sometimes that'll have no blue in it. But yes, I think for the purpose of this is quite a maze game, isn't it? Now you can push the 3 heart blocks together. Same as in Pengo, where you've got a similar mechanic. And they flash in just the same way. There we go. I didn't actually do anything to do that while I was playing Pengo. But there you go. So this is a bit worrying when a game says showtime, but in this case it's okay. What am I actually doing now? There we go, round clear. Ah, yes, don't pull, as in don't pull the source request. Don't update to latest. That's a clever way of doing it. But yeah, it is basically just Capcom's Pengo, isn't it? But obviously by the 90s, they couldn't really release something like this as a standalone game. And probably Sega would have had words. So it became part of Three Wonders. Which many people remember, or most people remember one game. It's one of those that comes up in the, what was this game? I can't remember the title of it so often, and they'll have just remembered one of the games from it, presumably the one they played, rather than, you know, remembering it as being a 3-in-1. Anyway. I bet whoever said I was good at the games regrets that now. One up. Yeah, tip of my joystick. For some reason, that is being held for review, but the tip of your joystick is nothing rude. It is a legitimate place to ask for the name of games. On Reddit, of course. Not every post gets answered, but you do get most answered. I mean, I tend to do it a lot for arcade games. If somebody remembers an arcade game and can give a decent enough description, I've seen most of them that I'll usually be able to give them an answer if there's some unique feature about it that they can actually remember. But yeah, the proper place to do that is tip of my joystick. Don't run into fire. Yeah, the filter cap caught tip of my joystick is needing to be reviewed. I mean, Three Wonders was what, 91? So it is a little bit close to Pengo. And that fire-breathing monster is a little bit close to Dig Dug. But, you know, as a compilation, this works really well. And, yeah, I mean, the other games, so you've got a platform game. Again, this is where all the blue gets stripped out on some boards. You've even got story scenes. It's not a maze game though, so I'm not going to play it, but just show them what the rest of it in Three Wonders is. You've got the platform game, and you've got the shooter game. Yeah. They're all well-programmed games. Not the biggest games in the world, but well-programmed ones. Yeah, before Capcom vs Data East, I think, because when was Fighters History? Fighters History was 93, so yeah, before Capcom vs Data East. Okay, let's have a look at Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. 1982 Sega. It's still unemulated protection on this one, apparently. So the logic might not be quite right. Now, this is one of those odd ones where I've been told it contains a fair bit of code from Pacman. Now, I don't know why a game from Sega would contain code from Pacman, but apparently it does. Also, it's a bit loud. I'm turning it down. This is obnoxious music. But it's one of those get things from A to B games. With random powers. Seems almost like a side on Pacman character. And I'm not very good at it. Now this also got a portrait of one of the Sega home systems too, didn't it? I think the random items is what somewhat something that's related to protection. But I don't really know how to play this. Maybe I should look at the guide. I'm supposed to squash the non-red guys. That was the red guy. So I just run into them. Kill the other 3 40 times. Well, the big red one can definitely hurt me. This kind of reminds me of that Wanted game as well, just chasing things down. Maybe Sega really liked the concept of thieves. There we go. Okay, I get it. Okay, chase that one. I guess if they steal all the bags, then I'm in trouble. And yes, I see the counter in the middle, 40. Okay, so it's literally 40 thieves to hunt down. Okay. But yeah, apparently it contains Pacman code, yet it's a Sega game, yet it's got no emulated protection on the question marks yet. I don't know. It's an odd one. I think it was Dave Whittle who did a lot of analysing of Pac-Man and the Pac-Man hardware, who mentioned that this was related to Pac-Man codebase as well as just being on Pac-Man hardware. It's not really the most enjoyable game. I think in terms of these, I played Talbot, the sheep one, sheep roundup one, rabbit roundup. What was I rounding? Sheep or rabbit? I was rounding something up. That one was more fun than this. You also lose if they steal all your money bags. Yeah, I figured it'd be a bit like what is it? Rip-off, the Vector one. Where the whole thing is things being stolen from the middle. So yeah, you can kind of see just the way it's presented that it feels very Pac-Man like. The timing of the messages in the attract mode, and I don't know. I've not studied the code myself. I'm only giving second-hand information there. Yeah, as I say, I think the randomization on the question mark is probably what the so-called protection is that's unemulated. I don't know what would control that. Maybe the problem is I think it's a really rare board, so I don't think anybody's going to get it and study it. Maybe it's some open bus thing like causes issues on Miss Pac-Man. I don't know. Kid no Ho Ho Daisakusen. This is one of, I think I've looked at this before, but this is one of my little favourites. That sort of looks like a mini Mario in a suit, but this is a hole digging game. It's overhead space panic type thing. Really good music. There we go, get in the hole. Get in the hole. Now you've got to get all the treasure. Now this is also known as Booby Kids. There's a hack in MAME called Booby Kids 2. But I don't think there's an official arcade version called Booby Kids, only that hack. Oh, I covered the hole before going past. Yeah, the music is really catchy. I really like the music on this one. There are ports of this. Isn't one on, I think the PC Engine got a version of this. Yeah, Nichibutsu did have some good musicians, that is true. Now, I'm playing this really, really badly. This isn't actually a hard stage. Again, it's a case of completely out of practice on it. I'm not going to get the gun on time. Where's the remaining treasure? There we go. Got the yo-yo now. And there's a key. Yo-yos are more dangerous than digging holes. Look, you get a little skull when you use the yo-yo. I think this is the exit here. No, that's... Yeah, this is the exit here. There we go. Ah, yes. The PC version is reskinned. I know I'd seen it on something like this on the PC Engine. Yes. Have you been listening to a lot of the Mega Man music then after fixing up the Genesis EEPROM support? I will continue just this once, because we are already almost on about 3 hours again. Yeah, but I've still not done a lot of what was on the list, even though trying to be brief with the games I'm playing. It is quite a big list of maze games. Let's be fair. I haven't even discussed why I think the maze games... I mean, to me, this is clearly a maze game. It's a big scrolling maze of lots of paths, lots going on. You've even got, like, snakes in the wall there. It feels mazy to me. You're looking for things. I think that's the problem with Pac-Man for me. It's because you can see it all. You're not looking for things. So you've got to find the treasure, which you don't. There's no radar. So, and you've got to, you've got an exit with the door. So if your requirement for a maze is that it has an exit, this meets that criteria. I'm not overly familiar with the Mega Man music. I'm not overly familiar with the Mega Man games in general. They're one of those series of games I just didn't really get. And if I ever try and play them, you can see that I don't have any strategy for them. This time just playing badly. I think I'm probably getting tired. I mean, I've been playing for about 6 hours worth of games now, haven't I? The 3 hours on the first stream, 3 hours on this stream. And I'm just falling down holes that I dug. That was silly. No. Let's not continue. That's a fun game though. One I will probably revisit on a stream when I want to play it for a bit longer, because it's one I will play for a long time, given the chance to play it for a long time. So yeah, we're probably at the one last game stage now. And I'm wondering what I want to play. Should I play something that's probably not going to be considered a maze game at all, but has mazy elements? If it runs in MAME. It is definitely not horizontal though. Oh, hold on. I'm not vertical even, it's definitely horizontal. There we go. Batman for the PC Engine. To be fair, it almost fit in the vertical screen until the text scrolling. Now, this Batman game is mazy. Probably not really what you expect from a Batman game, is it? But, Definitely has a maze element to it, where you're running around these buildings. And if we're considering this type of thing maze-like, where you're picking up things while running down corridors, this is definitely a maze game. Now, it is a very, very strange use of the Batman license, I have to admit. I mean, you might argue that the isometric game on the Spectrum is also a very strange use of the Batman license. But, I don't know. At least that's set in a Batcave and was based on sort of the more comical Batman. You know, the 60s one, wasn't it? Ooh. But yeah, I don't think many people play this one. Usually if you hear Batman games talked about, it's people talking about how bad Batman Forever is. Not a Sunsoft a PC Engine maze game. I never really played this one that much myself. I do know that when I have heard it mentioned in conversation, people who have played it usually do like it. So I thought I'd give it a little try. It's a very short stage. Okay. Oh, it's not so short. There's a big extra secret corridor. And again, if you've only really looked at arcade stuff in MAME and never explored outside of the arcades, you will have probably not seen this one. I mean, the NES game, the NES Sunsoft games are really good. Whereas this is something entirely different. I'm not a huge fan of the arcade Batman game, the Atari one. Actually, did Sunsoft develop this? I can't remember if Sunsoft developed this one. But it's definitely more arcadey, mazy than a Batman game maybe has any right to be. I mean, I could easily include the Spectrum isometric game as a maze game because it's a big isometric maze, realistically, you're trying to find your way around. But I was kind of trying to avoid doing that too much. I already looked at sort of Feud as a mazy game. That was a scrolling mazy game. Whereas the Batman isometric one is flip screen. And once you get to flip screen mazes, you're more into rooms and maze. And you're going way off into another subgenre. Okay. Yeah, I think Sunsoft appeared on the screen. I just have it so ingrained in my head that Sunsoft and Batman and consoles that I end up doubting what I've read just a minute ago sometimes. I think Sunsoft appeared on the screen, yes. Kind of the problem when I'm only half paying attention to some of the games. I think this is going to be the last game for the stream anyway, because we are over the 3-hour mark now. But I wanted to end it on something a little bit different, and this fit the bill. And I think this is one that maybe people are less likely to be aware of. Stalky bits, stalky bits. So I have a life left. Okay. Now I think it could do with a bit more variety. It's quite slow to mix things up, this game. That's maybe one of the not so positive things I have to say about it. I seem to be killing the same enemies over and over again in the same locations. Yeah, I do know Jamie Oliver myself. Not really a fan of anything I've seen of him, but yes. So it's now turned into Frogger, which is not a maze game. Okay, the most dangerous thing for Batman in this game is crossing the road. I'll keep that in mind. Also known as many worse things than the Naked Chef, believe me. Okay, he's not necessarily the most popular figure over here for various reasons. Seems to sort of have his own interests in mind a lot of the time. That's a password of different Batman characters in different directions. But yes, this was the Batman game on the PC Engine, which is entirely not what you'd expect, but there you go, yes, Sunsoft on the title screen. Very different to the NES Batman games. But yeah, I think that's it. So once again, thank you to everybody who's joined the second stream of the day, which was obviously not what I was initially planning, but I couldn't go on for a full 6 hours without a bit of a break and something to eat and a drink. But it was really good to see everybody drop back in. Devil World, the Konami one, I found that very rough around the edges, but it is one I'll probably feature in another stream. Thank you, Santeri, too. And obviously, thank you, Ethel, thank you, Ryan, Stephen, R09, Bob, Cow, the Ogre, who was on here earlier. May you still be there? And I see a comment from the Z9K9 now saying there was a clone of Pengo on the Micro B called Chili Willy. I missed that one at the time, and that got through the censorship without me having to click approve. That's actually quite impressive. Joe was here earlier. What else have we got in here? Big Winner, who left a while ago. And yeah, okay, I think that's a Manchov was here earlier and left a while ago too. Wolfaz was here too. So yeah, quite a few people taking part in the chat and having and watching and hopefully learning something, seeing things they've not seen before. Oh no, the Nintendo one. Devil World, the Nintendo one. Yeah, I had a look at Devil World actually. Yes, I did have a look at Devil World in the first stream. It was. Yeah, Devil World, the Konami game, is definitely not really a very good one, but it is quite mazy and quite a gauntlet-like game that I will probably be looking at on a third part if I do a third part. There won't be a third part today. It is just gone 11 o'clock, and I will probably be getting some sleep fairly soon. But yes, thank you to everybody, and I will see you all again soon, I hope. Bye.